Hi, Aletha here with Create Your Future, and thank you for joining me in this video. We're going to talk about how to teach our children that they can create their own realities, that they have that power, and that how we can also instill in them strong self-concepts, that they are worthy, they are deserving, they are valuable people, and that they're very powerful. But how do we do that? And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before we do that, just to remind you that Create Your Future is still giving away a free course, How to Find Your Blocks to Manifest Anything Fast, that I have courses available for $50 each, and that I also do one-on-one coaching. If you find this video helpful and it resonates with you, please like it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment. I love to read them and I love to answer them. And then also share it with somebody else that you believe would benefit from the content of this video. Let's move into our topic. The person that asked this question specifically pointed out that she was interested in children from ages 3 to 7. I want to just do a little broader. Children up to 6 years old are usually working in what's known as the theta brain state. It's the imaginary brain state. It's the brain state that we want to go into for imagining, for developing and creating whatever it is that our heart's desiring to manifest, because the beta brain is shut down. That analytical brain is shut down. It's quiet. It's not interfering with negative thoughts or all the how-tos and what-ifs, right? And then children from 8 years to 12 years old are in what's known as the alpha brain state. And again, they're operating from a state, both of them, from a state of like imagination and observing. During those brain state levels, they don't have the capacity yet to be in the beta brain state. It's the analytical brain state. They're not analytical yet. They're in that imaginary state. They're in that state where they're observing what's going on. So you can say to them all you want that they have the power to create their realities and explain the whole process to them, but really it's not going to connect with them because analytically they're not there yet. There's not a developmental stage that they're in yet. So they're in the stage of observing. And so if you want to train your children to understand that they have power and give them a good self-concept, you need to do it through being that living example for them, because they are observing everything you do. They may hear your words, but they're really watching you. And so the best way that you can help your child is to be the living example of what it is you want them to learn. So an example would be if you ask your child to clean the room, if it's old enough to be able to pick up their toys or clean up a messy area, and you ask them to do that, yet all through your house or in your own specific bedroom, it's very messy. So what are they observing? They're observing that you're asking them to clean their room, but you're not doing it. They're observing that conflict of interest there, okay? And then, or if you're saying to your child, if they're having a temper tantrum or they're very emotional about something, and you're approaching them and asking them and telling them to stop reacting emotionally, but at the same time, the way you are confronting them, you are reacting emotionally to them. Or if they see you in situations with other adults and other people and other family members in your world, they see you reacting to stuff as an emotional person, then they're observing that. And so the words are not sinking in, but what is sinking in is your living example. So it's so important to understand that it's really, just like manifesting comes from our heart, right? I manifest within first, and then it's pushed out of me and then mirrored back. Your children are going to mirror back your behaviors. So it's, what am I inside first? What example am I being for my children internally? Who am I? And am I emulating to them the things that I want them to learn? Am I being that good example? Because they're going to copy your behavior. And so it's really important that one of the greatest things you can do, and if you want to teach them strong self-concept, then you need to have one. And again, as within, so without. Whatever you project out of you is going to be mirrored back. They're in that state of consciousness where they're mirroring back what you are putting out. So they are watching, they're observing, and they're emulating your behavior. So as a parent of children, it's really important that you give your children illustrations and life examples where they can learn to understand their world in by your example. And one of the things that's so important, and one of the best things you can teach your child, is to control their emotions. Because what happens is children will react a certain way, and immediately we want to reason with them and tell them to stop, or we want them to sit down, or I'm going to put you in the corner in timeout or whatever, and we want to reason with them and tell them you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and this is what I want. And when they're angry and upset or frustrated or hurt or whatever it might be, reasoning isn't going to go anywhere with them. It's not going to click. And just think about it with you. If you're upset about something in your world or with somebody, and then someone's trying to reason with you, do you want to hear that when you're in the middle of anger? Do you want to hear that when you're feeling extremely frustrated that you should do this and you should do that? No, you don't. And what's important for yourself and for your child, and you can reflect this to them, is that refractory time period from when I'm in the midst of a lot of emotional reaction to something or someone. How long does it take me to get out of that? How long does it take me to move from being extremely emotional to being calm and in control of my emotions? And what happens often with people, and what we want to teach our children, is to not stay in those states of highly reactive behaviors and emotions, which is really emotions that create the behaviors, because that can become a lifelong deficit to them. So we want to teach them how to control and to bring themselves back into a place of calmness in a shorter period of time than letting it go on and on. Often, what we will do is we have an issue in our lives and we keep thinking about it over and over and over. And after a day or two, they did this, they did that, so I feel sad and hurt. And that becomes your mood. And then after a while, it becomes another state where it's your state of being. And then next thing you know, it's become your personality, because you have continued to reinforce it within yourself. And so the best way you can really teach your child how to manage their emotions, how to not react to the current 3D reality, is to teach them to shorten that refractory period, that time period. And how do you teach them that? Because at ages 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up through 12, you're not going to do it with a lot of words. You're going to do it through them observing you having a shorter reaction. Yes, you're human, but you're going to have a shorter reaction time, because you are human. You will feel things, you will react. Then what do? You know how to pull yourself back. You don't walk around for days being angry. You don't walk around for a week saying, I'm in this mood because so-and-so did that. You don't walk around being that way, and a year later, you're telling somebody, well, I have issues trusting people because this happened when I was a child. You see, that's creating what you think is your personality, what you think is your identity. And that's what's going to happen with your children if you don't teach them how to shut down that refractory period, make it less. And that's what you need to do with yourself. First, you have to learn how to control your own emotions and deal with the 3D, so that you're not your emotions. You're not your emotions. So you pull yourself back. And the law of assumption simply tells you not to pay any attention to the 3D, right? Because it's not real. And to stay within yourself with the wish fulfilled. When you're working with a child and they're not complying to what you want, give them time to calm down. And then afterwards, sit down and try a different method. Maybe before they go to bed, when they're in that tired state and they're a little closer to being drowsy, and you lay down beside them and you say, you know what, today I had a lot of trouble with something. And I didn't think I didn't respond very well. I got really angry. And then I thought maybe I said some things that weren't so nice. But I want to change that. And then you let the child interact. They may ask you questions. They may say, well, you know what? I yelled at so-and-so, or I wouldn't share whatever with so-and-so. And so you allow them to start interacting with you on something that happened in your lives, so that they are able to identify and see that they're going to emulate you. If you're showing them and being vulnerable and showing them that you had emotions, because we're not talking about penting them up. We're talking about learning how to control them. We all have emotions. They're good for us. They're good. We feel things, but how long do we stay in those states that are not good for us? It's not good to stay in a state of anger forever, or a state of resentment forever. Those are the fight or flight things that people are running away from, and they're calling me and other coaches to help them get through. That's not who you are, and that's not who you want to emulate to your children. So as you're laying there and you're just being very vulnerable and saying, you know, I had this issue today, then hopefully they will share with you, or they will start to interact with you and ask you questions, and it's a teachable moment. And then another thing that you can do, and I did this with my children when they were little, is you can tell them stories. And I always made the stories be about something that I noticed during the day that they struggled with as a person. Whether they weren't sharing with one another. I had two. I had a little girl and a little boy. And my stories were about a little prince and a little princess. And that was fun for me. And they lived in a castle, and and there may be some, if you have any issues with politically correct and all that good stuff, I don't. So just understand that the idea here isn't the mechanisms or the words that I use. It is what we are trying to teach, and it's the concept. And so I told him a story, and the story then would be around that situation my child struggled with that day. And it was invariably, they would say to me, that was me today, Mommy. And I did not use their names. I called them Little Prince and Princess. And we had this fabulous imaginal world. And I made it all kind of beautiful and wonderful. And it was all kinds of cool things and fun stuff, and used a creativity so that it was just Wonderland, this beautiful place. But in that place, one of the characters had an issue that they had to deal with. And so then I worked through that into the story, so that they were able to see themselves in it. So that's observation. They were being taught by a picture. They were being taught by a story. And of course, the mind creates pictures. So that's imagination. And that's how children at this age learn best, because they don't have the beta brain yet. It's not developed in them to the extent that they have an analytical mind that they can analyze and say, oh, I get what you're saying. Oh, that makes total sense. No, that's not going to happen with your children at in that age bracket that we're talking about, which is like a little 3 through 12 years old. All right, so that's an example of something you can do with them, and being real and vulnerable with them. Share, I had trouble today with Daddy. Daddy and I didn't get along so well. We said this or whatever, and then allow them and see them how you worked it out, and they probably observed a lot that more than you realize anyway. And it can be any situation. It doesn't have to be between a parent and a parent. It can be anything that the child could understand and relate to their own lives in a picture form through their imagination. So you can share your vulnerabilities with them, because you're not godding over them. You're not the God over them. You're their parent. You're a loving, caring person who respects their personality and where they are in life right now, and the age that they are, and what their capacity for learning is at this point, and how they learn best. And you also respect them as human beings, and you value them, and you are admitting to them that no one is, that everybody struggles, and in those struggles we learn how to handle, and we can handle situations, and we can do that together. too, because we're a family. So you're teaching them that by illustration. And then also if you tell them a story that is centered around something that might have been a struggle for them during that day, and make it fun. And so you're using their imagination, because that's what they function from, imagination, and it's a picture, it's observation, right? It's a picture in their mind, and it's observation. So try some of these things, see if they work for you. You can leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to answer it. And if you really want to get specific, then of course we have to meet one-on-one, and I would be more than happy to do that and help you with specifics on how to teach your children, your young children, that they have the power through their thoughts to create their own reality, that they have the power through their emotions to control their reality, and not to get caught up in the 3D and think it's the real true world, when it's not. It is only a reflection of their past thoughts. You need to live that, demonstrate that to them by the way you respond to your 3D reality and to them. And so all of that is doing it through a place of being the living example for your children. If you have questions, certainly ask them. If you want to coach with me and get more specific, I'm more than happy to do that, and blessings.